Thank you so much. I'm sure many of you have heard this piece before. It is, in fact, probably one of the most iconic and well-known pieces of classical music ever written. The prelude from the Bach's cello suites in G major. 10 years ago, I was 16 years old. I opened a very heavy soundproof door and walked into a small, rather stuffy room. There was an old man sitting there with a grumpy face, staring at me. It was my first time to meet my instructor at the Juilliard School of Music in New York City. All I could think was that he looked exactly like that statue called The Thinker. My fingers were trembling and everything seemed to be happening in slow motion. Looking back, I have no idea how I could have been so brave, or maybe I was naive, to actually decide to play one of these Bach's cello suites for my very first lesson, knowing that this very man studied the cello under the legendary cellist Pablo Casals, who is known for discovering these long-lost Bach suites in 1890. But that's what I had decided to do. I picked up my cello, sat in front of this grave-faced man, and started playing before even introducing myself. When I finished playing, he finally cracked a smile and said, "You know, the silence between the notes is actually more important than the notes themselves." I thought for a moment. I came to the best music school in the world, and the thing I'm supposed to learn is that the silence is more important than the actual music? Oh, come on. 4 years later, as I was picking up the cello case and walking towards the door at the end of what was to turn out to be my last lesson with Mr. Sawyer, he stopped me and looked me in the eyes and said, "Eru, it seems like everyone wants everything to be loud and fast now. This will change eventually. We will come back." 3 days later, he died at the age of 87. The search for the silence between the notes and the meaning of "we will come back" has been my life's mission. When I was first invited to give a talk here and was given the theme this year, Millennials Challenge, I smiled because I realized that I've pretty much spent my whole life surrounded by really old people, studying ancient composers, working with legendary conductors, playing for stuffy critics, and half the audience is always falling asleep. Even this guy right here is something like 200 years old. But by spending a lot of time with these old people, and another word for them is masters, and searching for the silence between the notes in everything I played, I actually learned so many things and received many gifts which have helped me reach a lot of my goals. So today, I'd like to pass what I've learned on to you, and I hope it resonates with you and that you will pass it on to others. The silence between the notes. This actually applies to everything in life, not just in music. And it relates to one of the biggest challenges that we millennials face today. Finding meaning in our life, finding our own place in this world, a feeling of significance that our existence actually matters. The key is connection. Now, this may sound simple, but trust me, it isn't. Music is one long phrase. It's connected all the way through, and the silences are invisible, but very important part of the music. Okay, so do this right now. I want you to think of the last time you talked to someone who's important to you. It could have been a business meeting, or maybe it was just a quick phone call to your friend. Okay, do you have someone in your mind? So while you're thinking about that conversation, I want you to recall 3 things that they said to you. How about 1? It's not easy, is it? Maybe you can remember the things that they complimented you on, but what else can you remember? Okay. So let's reverse the question here. Can you remember the thing that you said to them? I see some people nodding. A conversation is music between you and the other person you're talking with. And where does the most important stuff happen? In the listening, in the silence, when the other person is talking. You can actively listen and make beautiful harmony with each other. What usually happens, though, is that you're taking the time when the other person is talking to think about what you want to say next. You can't wait for your turn to talk, right? A feeling of connection is actually directly related to happiness, fulfillment, and success in life. Connecting with people means that you will have an impact on others in a meaningful way. Your very existence actually influences more people than you even realize. These days, a lot of people I meet appear to believe that they are robots. Either that, or they have completely given up trying. They do their jobs with very little pride in their service they're providing. They rarely go above and beyond what is expected of them. But the truth is that by doing something that actually helps another, you are the one who ends up feeling great. You're the one who benefits from it. Okay, now listen to this. Each of us will live around 78.3 years on average. Most of us remember the people we meet after the age of 5. Assume that we interact with 3 new people every day. That is 78.3 minus 5 times 3 times 365.24, which equals 80,000 people that we get to meet one way or another in our lifetimes. Just imagine how many others we have the potential to influence and impact through internet and social media. Not only do we have a place in this world, but we are actually shaping our planet's future. Now, while you're here in this place of learning as an investment in your future, I'd like to plant a small seed. Perhaps it's not as much about having that perfect career or a profession per se, but the desire, the need to be someone who can be useful as a person. And what that is for each of us is very personal, of course. For me, I am a virtuoso cellist, but that is definitely not who I really am. For my deepest desire is to spread love and peace to all I come in contact with. And I do that by making strings sing on this old instrument, crafted in Italy in 1820. I believe that each and every vibration I send out to the universe helps to create a better world. One where we can feel and express love. And that is my calling. Of course, you don't have to pick up a musical instrument and play until your fingers bleed in order to hear the silence. You just have to let it happen. If you sit and do nothing without expecting to find anything, you will let the tiny voice inside you be heard. So, this is why, after over 36,000 hours of music making, here I am talking about the importance of silence. Thank you very much.